Filled with over 39 trillion gallons of pure Sierra snowmelt and pushed a mile into the Californian and Nevada skies, Lake Tahoe is the USA's largest alpine lake.
Lake Tahoe looks very calm on the surface. The water is clear, and people see it as a peaceful place for rest and fun. But under this calm view, something strange may be happening. The ground below the lake is shaking more often than before. The water level is also rising faster than normal, and this has caught the attention of scientists. They are now asking if this is just a normal change in nature or something more serious. What exactly is really happening deep under Lake Tahoe? Join us in this video as we reveal the details. Scientists finally scanned Lake Tahoe's deepest point. Lake Tahoe looks calm from above. People come there for holidays. They swim, fish, boat, and take pictures. The water is blue and clear. Mountains stand around it. Many people think it is only a beautiful place. But under the water, there is another story. This lake is very deep. It goes down more than 1,600 feet. That depth changes everything. Deep below the surface, sunlight disappears. The water becomes very cold. Oxygen becomes low. Very few living things survive there. Because of this, things that fall into the lake do not change quickly. They stay there for years, sometimes for hundreds or even thousands of years. Scientists say deep water in the lake acts like a giant storage room. Old things remain in place because the cold slows down decay. Wood stays strong. Metal lasts longer. Even living things that die there can remain preserved far longer than normal. Divers who went deep into the lake have spoken about strange discoveries. Some say they found human remains far below the surface. The cold water kept clothes, skin, and other things from breaking apart quickly. Stories like these spread because people are shocked that a lake can keep things unchanged for so long. Over many years, people started telling stories about missing people and bodies hidden in the water. Some local stories claim criminals may have used the lake because of its depth. These stories became part of the mystery around the lake. Some stories may be true, some may not be, but they continue to grow because the lake hides many things. People also talk about famous explorers visiting the lake. One of the biggest stories says a famous underwater explorer once visited and came back disturbed by what he saw. Some people believe he discovered strange things. Others say the story was changed over time. No one knows for sure. But stories like this made the mystery bigger. One of the strangest discoveries was found hundreds of feet underwater. Scientists discovered trees standing deep below the lake's surface. Not fallen trees, standing trees. Whole forests hidden underwater. These trees are very old. Tests suggest some may have been underwater for around 6,000 years. This created many questions. How did a forest end up underwater? Did water levels rise slowly? Did the ground sink? Did earthquakes change the shape of the lake? The trees remain standing because the water protects them. Divers describe swimming through these trees like walking into another world. Nothing moves. Nothing grows. The trees simply remain there in silence. The lake also keeps old ships. Boats that sank many years ago still rest at the bottom. Some look almost untouched. Old wood remains. Metal parts survive. Windows stay in place. Some ships look far younger than they really are. One famous ship was sunk on purpose many years ago after it stopped working. When divers later reached it, they expected damage. Instead, they found much of it still standing. The deep, cold water had protected it. More discoveries continued. Old pottery pieces were found underwater. Metal objects were discovered. Mining tools appeared on the lake floor. Some researchers think these things may connect to old communities that once lived near the lake many years ago. As more objects appeared underwater, people started asking harder questions. How much history is hidden below? How many things disappeared without anyone knowing where they went? The deeper people looked, the stranger the lake became. Instead of giving answers, the water only created more questions. By now, many people no longer see Lake Tahoe as only a tourist attraction. They see it as a giant vault, a place that collects history and keeps it hidden in cold darkness for centuries. The surface remains beautiful, but below it sits a world that barely changes. A world where old forests still stand, ships remain frozen in time, and forgotten pieces of history wait quietly in the dark. If Lake Tahoe has already shown us preserved bodies, hidden forests, old ships, and forgotten history resting quietly in the dark, then what else could still be hiding deeper below the surface where few people have ever reached? Let's find out. Secrets, legends, and what still lives below. As researchers learned more about the lake, they found another part of the story. The mystery was not only about old ships and forests, it was also about science, danger, and things people still do not fully understand. For many years, military groups used the lake for underwater testing. The lake was deep, it was cold, it was clear. These conditions made it useful for experiments. Equipment was lowered deep underwater. Sonar systems were tested. Underwater machines were used. Some equipment never came back up. Over time, people started asking questions. What exactly was tested there? What was lost underwater? Some records confirmed that equipment was left behind, but many details stayed hidden. Stories from divers added more mystery. Some reported seeing lights underwater. Others described hearing sounds that made no sense. A few believed they saw machines moving far below the surface. Nobody could fully prove these stories. Still, they spread because so much activity had happened underwater for decades. Then researchers started studying the shape of the lake floor. Using sonar technology, they created maps of the bottom. What they found created debate. Some images showed shapes that looked unusual. Straight lines appeared, sharp angles appeared. Some areas looked almost organized. Scientists mostly explained these formations as natural changes caused by landslides and broken rock. Others believed the shapes looked too organized. The truth remains uncertain. The lake floor still keeps many secrets. The ground under the lake is also active. Large fault lines run below the region. This means earthquakes are possible. Researchers found underwater hotspots where warm water rises from below. This showed that heat exists under parts of the lake floor. Scientists later discovered signs of volcanic activity below the basin. It does not mean an eruption is coming soon, but it does show the lake is more active than many people thought. This creates risks. If large earthquakes happen underwater, huge amounts of water could move quickly. Large waves could form. Communities around the lake could face danger with little warning. Most visitors never think about these risks while swimming or boating, but researchers continue watching closely. Then there are the fish. Lake trout in the lake grow unusually large. The cold water helps them survive longer. There are fewer predators. Food is available. Some fish became much larger than expected. Fishermen tell stories about catching giant fish. Others tell stories about losing them after lines snapped. These stories created local legends. One legend speaks about a creature living in deep water. People gave it names and described long bodies moving through dark water. Scientists usually connect these stories to large fish or mistakes caused by dark conditions underwater. But legends survive because deep places make people imagine things. Long before modern science arrived, indigenous people already respected the lake deeply. They warned people about certain areas. Some places were believed to be dangerous. Some parts of the shoreline were avoided. Stories described powerful beings connected to the water. For many years, outsiders ignored these stories. Later, researchers compared old warnings with modern accident records. Some dangerous areas matched places where many accidents happened. This does not prove that legends are real, but it shows local knowledge may have understood the lake better than people realized. Today, Lake Tahoe remains beautiful on the outside. Families visit, tourists take photos, boats move across clear blue water. But below that surface sits another world. Ancient forests remain standing. Ships wait quietly. Artifacts stay hidden. Old equipment rests in darkness. Fish move through deep water. Heat rises from below. And thousands of feet down, where sunlight never reaches, much of the lake remains unexplored. The deeper people go, the more they learn. But every answer seems to create new questions. That may be why the lake continues to fascinate people, not because of what we already know, but because of everything still waiting below. If the lake once held secrets, legends, and things still moving beneath the surface, what happens when the world above it begins to change everything around it, and those changes start to cause problems? Let's learn more. When growth around the lake started creating problems. After World War II, life around Lake Tahoe changed very fast. Before that period, the area around the lake was quieter. Fewer people visited, fewer businesses existed, roads were harder to use, and many places around the lake stayed untouched for years. Most people who came there saw it as a peaceful place, far away from busy cities. But everything started changing when travel became easier, and businesses realized how valuable the lake could become. New roads opened and tourism exploded. More families arrived during the holidays. Investors started buying land. Hotels appeared. Resorts expanded. Casinos opened nearby. Houses were built faster than before. Businesses moved into the area because more visitors meant more money. Towns around the lake grew quickly, and construction projects started appearing almost everywhere. Growth created another problem. More people meant more waste. Building materials piled up. Old machines stopped working. Construction projects produced large amounts of debris. Businesses created garbage every day. During those years, environmental rules were weak compared to today. People often cared more about getting rid of waste quickly than protecting natural spaces. Because the lake was extremely deep, many people believed it could hide almost anything. Deep water gave people confidence that whatever entered the lake would stay there forever. Over time, reports suggested construction companies dumped debris into the water. Businesses allegedly disposed of unwanted materials near the shoreline. Old equipment disappeared into deep sections of the lake. Industrial waste reportedly entered the water because disposal elsewhere cost more money. Vehicles slowly became part of this story too. Old cars broke down. Trucks stopped working. Equipment became outdated. Instead of paying for expensive removal, dumping became easier for some people. Researchers later suggested this may explain why so many vehicles were eventually discovered underwater. For decades, nobody paid much attention to what existed below the surface. Tourists continued arriving. Boats moved across blue water. Families swam during summer months. Photographs showed mountain reflections and clear shorelines. The beauty of the lake covered what may have been slowly building underneath. Then, weather conditions changed. Long periods of drought affected water levels. Lower snowfall reduced the amount of water flowing into the lake. Slowly, shorelines moved backward. Areas hidden underwater for years started appearing again. People walking near the lake began noticing unusual objects. Old tires appeared first, then glass bottles, rusted metal, pieces of machinery. Many assumed these discoveries were normal because litter can be found around many lakes. But the number of objects kept growing. Cleanup teams and divers later entered the water to investigate further. Their discoveries changed how many people viewed the lake. Divers started finding vehicles underwater. Then more vehicles appeared. Some discoveries surprised researchers because the cars remained preserved better than expected. Cold temperatures and deep water slowed damage over many years. Some vehicles still had visible paint. Windows remained attached. Certain parts looked almost untouched, despite sitting underwater for decades. Divers described seeing groups of vehicles resting together near older shoreline access points. Researchers started studying where these discoveries were located. Some vehicles may have entered the lake accidentally. Roads near steep slopes created risks. But larger groups of vehicles raised different questions. Why were so many located in similar areas? Why were certain dumping locations repeated? As exploration continued, researchers realized something important. These discoveries near the shoreline might only represent a small part of the larger picture. If so much remained visible in shallow areas, deeper sections could contain far more. Public attention slowly shifted. People stopped asking whether dumping happened. Instead, they started asking how much had been dumped and how long it had remained hidden. The lake still looked beautiful from above. Visitors still arrived for vacations. Boats still crossed the water. But below that peaceful surface, Years of human activity may have created a hidden layer of history that few people had ever seen. That realization pushed researchers toward deeper exploration because the biggest questions were no longer near the shore. They were waiting far below the surface. After seeing how growth around the lake slowly began to create problems, the next question is, how did these changes eventually affect the people, the land, and the lake itself in ways no one expected? Let's delve deeper. What researchers found in the deep water? As discoveries near the shoreline increased, researchers understood that human divers could only go so far. Deep areas of Lake Tahoe create serious dangers. Water temperatures stay near freezing. Pressure increases heavily with depth. Sunlight disappears completely. Large sections of the lake remain difficult for humans to reach safely. To continue exploring, researchers started using underwater robots. These machines carried cameras, lights, sensors, and equipment for collecting samples. They could reach places human divers could not safely explore. As cameras moved deeper, researchers found more debris than expected. Old equipment appeared across sections of the lake floor. Metal objects rested in deep areas. Additional vehicles appeared beyond the depths that divers normally reach. Every deeper search seemed to reveal more hidden material. Then, researchers started finding industrial containers. Large metal drums appeared on camera footage. At first, only a few barrels were visible. Then researchers found larger groups. Some containers appeared scattered, while others sat together in clusters. These discoveries created concern because industrial containers suggested organized dumping rather than accidental loss. Some barrels still had markings visible. Certain containers reportedly showed labels or faded chemical warnings. Others appeared damaged after decades underwater. Researchers became more concerned when footage suggested that some containers might no longer be sealed. Certain cameras reportedly recorded cloudy material moving near damaged drums. Because deep water moves slowly, these substances stayed visible near the containers longer than researchers expected. Water samples were collected around these locations. Testing reportedly showed signs of contamination. Researchers discussed chemicals such as lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, and other industrial materials. These findings created bigger concerns because contamination does not always stay trapped in one place forever. Scientists worried about slow movement through lake layers. Even small amounts of contamination spreading over long periods could affect ecosystems around the lake. Fish populations, wildlife, and water quality all became part of the conversation. Cleanup created another problem. Removing barrels from extreme depths is difficult and expensive. Lifting damaged containers could release more chemicals. Leaving them underwater could allow more leaks over time. Researchers continue debating which option creates less risk. During deeper exploration, cameras reportedly found more unusual discoveries. Personal belongings appeared in footage. Bags rested near debris fields. Clothing fragments were reportedly seen in certain areas. These findings brought back older stories surrounding the lake. For decades, rumors connected deep water with organized crime activity during earlier casino years. Stories claimed that people used the lake's depth to hide evidence because cold water preserved objects for long periods. Researchers have not confirmed many of these claims. Some findings remain unclear. Some footage reportedly continues undergoing review. Because information remains incomplete, many questions stay unanswered. Despite uncertainty, public interest grew quickly. People became fascinated by the idea that decades of hidden history remained below the surface. Today, Lake Tahoe still appears peaceful. Tourists continue visiting every year. Families swim near shorelines. Boats move across blue water. But deep below the surface sits another reality. Vehicles remain underwater. Industrial waste remains hidden. Chemical concerns continue. Large sections of the lake floor remain unexplored. Researchers believe future discoveries are still possible because only parts of the deepest basin have been properly studied. The biggest mystery may not be what researchers have already discovered. After understanding the growing risks beneath Lake Tahoe and the rising pressure under the lake, the next question is, What happens when all these hidden forces finally reach a breaking point and the system can no longer hold? Stay tuned for more. When the lake rose too high, hidden pressure beneath Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is now at its highest water level in recent time, filled after heavy rain and strong snow that followed a long dry period. The lake now sits at a point where it is holding a very large amount of water, and it is close to the top level it is allowed to reach. This change did not happen slowly in a small way, but through seasons of heavy weather that brought more water than usual into the lake area. Under the lake, there is a deep crack in the ground known as the West Tahoe Fault, which runs for many miles beneath the water. This fault is able to produce a very strong earthquake, one that could reach a powerful level and cause serious shaking across the region. Studies of the ground under the lake show that this fault has not moved for thousands of years, which makes scientists worried that it may move again. Scientists have looked at layers of mud and soil at the bottom of the lake and found signs of past strong earthquakes and ground shifts. These signs show that the lake area has been shaken in the past, even if people living today have not seen such events in their lifetime. Because the lake is now very full, it puts heavy pressure on the ground under it, like a heavy weight pressing down on broken rock. Water from the lake can also sink into small cracks in the rock, and this water can push inside and change the strength of the fault. When this happens, the rock can become weaker and more likely to move, because the pressure inside the cracks reduces the grip between the rocks. In some places, small shakes in the ground have already been recorded, and these small movements are being watched carefully by experts. These small tremors are not dangerous on their own, but they may show that pressure is building slowly under the ground. Scientists are concerned because these small shakes can sometimes happen before a bigger earthquake, although they do not always lead to one. If a strong earthquake were to happen under the lake, it would not only shake the ground, but also disturb the water above it. The shaking could cause underwater landslides, where large amounts of soil and rock fall and move quickly along the bottom of the lake. This movement could push water in a sudden way and create large waves that travel across the lake toward the shore. These waves could reach towns around the lake very quickly, giving people very little time to react or move to safety. Many communities around the lake are close to the water, so they would be the first to feel the impact of such waves. Roads and escape paths in the area are limited, and in a sudden emergency, they could become blocked or damaged. This would make it harder for people to leave quickly if a disaster were to happen without warning. Scientists continue to monitor the lake and the fault using modern tools that can detect small changes in the ground. Even with these tools, they cannot tell the exact time when an earthquake will happen, only that there is a risk based on patterns. The situation is therefore one of caution, because the lake is full, the ground below is active, and small signs of movement are already being seen. Overall, experts say the combination of heavy water pressure, an old fault line, and small ground movements means the area must be watched closely for changes. They explain that nothing certain is happening right now, but the conditions are similar to places where strong earthquakes have happened in the past. Because of this, researchers remain alert and continue studying the lake so they can better understand what may happen in the future. The main concern is safety for people living near the lake and being prepared early. If the surface of Lake Tahoe looks so clean and clear, what is really happening deep below the water that we cannot see? Keep watching for more. Hidden depths of Lake Tahoe, formation, deep water conditions, and ongoing environmental concerns. Lake Tahoe is a very deep lake that formed many millions of years ago. It was created when the ground under the earth moved and cracked. Big blocks of land shifted and made a deep hole. Later, volcano activity helped close one side of the valley. Over a long time, rain and snow filled the hole and formed the lake. This is why the lake is very deep and closed off from many outside water systems. The surface of Lake Tahoe looks very clean and very clear. People can see far into the water from the top, but this clear look is only on the top layer of the lake. As you go deeper, the water becomes very dark. After a certain depth, There is no light at all. Nothing can be seen. The water is also very still. There is very little movement or change in temperature. Because of this, things that fall deep into the lake do not break down easily. They can stay there for a very long time. There are concerns about what may happen if materials from the deep parts of the lake slowly move upward. Even if this movement is very slow, it could still affect the upper water over time. This raises worries about water safety and the health of the lake. Scientists are trying to understand if small amounts of harmful materials can rise from deep water and mix with cleaner water near the surface. The full effect is not yet fully known. Fixing the problem in the lake is very hard. If workers try to remove the deep materials, they may disturb them and cause harmful things to spread into the water. But if they leave them where they are, the slow leaking may continue for many years. This puts experts in a difficult position. No simple or safe solution removes all risk. Every choice has a possible danger, either during removal or over time if nothing is done. Scientists and government groups are still studying the situation. They are trying to measure how much material is in the deep lake and how far it spreads. They are also checking how it may change over time. The work is not finished yet. More research is needed before clear answers can be given. Teams are watching the lake closely so they can understand what actions may be needed in the future. This situation shows how old actions can still affect the environment many years later. It also shows that nature can hide problems deep underwater, where people cannot easily see them. Even when the surface looks clean and safe, the deeper parts may tell a different story. Because of this, experts believe careful checking of deep water is very important. They want to make sure that nothing harmful is ignored just because it is hard to reach. The goal is to protect the water for people, animals, and future generations. Every new discovery helps them understand the lake better and plan better actions. Overall, the lake is seen as beautiful on the surface, but its deeper condition is more complex. Experts continue to study it so they can find safe and long-term ways to manage it. They also hope that better understanding will help prevent similar problems in other places. The work takes time because the lake is large and very deep. After seeing how pressure is building beneath Lake Tahoe and how the ground may be weakening over time, what could this mean for the future stability of the lake and the communities around it? Let's find out. Beneath Lake Tahoe, rising pressure, weakening ground, and hidden risk. Deep under the lake, there is a large crack in the earth called the West Tahoe Fault. Scientists say this fault has not had a big break for a very long time. It has been sitting still for thousands of years while pressure slowly builds inside it. Because of this long, quiet time, experts believe it may be ready for a strong earthquake in the future. They say the ground is holding back energy, and at some point, it will have to release it. At the same time, the lake water has been rising and becoming heavier on the ground below. This extra weight is pressing down on broken rocks under the lake. When water becomes too heavy, it pushes into small cracks in the earth. This can make the ground weaker. It also makes it easier for rocks to slip against each other. In simple words, the water is acting like pressure sitting on a weak surface, and this can make the earth more likely to move. There is also water moving deep inside the ground through hidden cracks. This water goes into tiny spaces inside the rocks. When this happens, it changes how the rocks hold together. The rocks become softer and less tight. Over time, this can make the ground weaker in places where it is already cracked. This process does not stop. It keeps going as long as water keeps finding new paths under the earth. Another important point is that small earthquakes and water movement may be working together. When the ground shakes, it can open new cracks in the rock. These cracks give water more space to flow deeper underground. Then, the extra water adds more pressure to the weak areas. This means both things help each other grow stronger. The shaking helps the water move, and the water helps the ground become weaker. This cycle can keep repeating again and again. Each time it happens, the ground becomes more unstable than before. There is also concern about what could happen if a strong earthquake takes place under the lake. If that happens, it could shake the bottom of the lake so hard that parts of the underwater ground may break loose. These broken parts of the lake floor could slide quickly. When large amounts of soil and rock move underwater, they push the water out of the way very fast. This sudden movement of water can create big waves inside the lake. These waves can travel across the water in a short time and hit the shore with strong force. If this happens, places near the lake could face flooding and damage very quickly, giving people very little time to react. What do you think about the mystery of Lake Tahoe? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for following this story about what is happening beneath Lake Tahoe. If it changed how you see this peaceful lake and the hidden forces under the ground, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video to explore more real stories about nature, science, and the secrets of our world. See you there.